Hello, everybody. My name is Claire Luthroyd, and it's my great pleasure to introduce to you in today's Ed Talk Professor Dom DeZiglia. And he is, of course, of world renown. He has been a past professor of Hôpital Cochin in Paris for many years, where he directed the reproductive endocrinology and infertility program and he is now the scientific director of the Fertility Clinic of Cambodia. He is an amazing person. He's also the chair of the special interest group of Aspire on fertility decline and depopulation. And that's what we're going to be talking about today with Dom. So welcome, Dom, to this Ed Talk.
Thank you, Claire. This is a very kind and very warm welcome. It's an honor for me to participate in this podcast for Aspire. Yes, we will be talking about fertility decline, and this is a worldwide issue that concerns all of us now, and particularly in East Asia.
So can you tell us a little bit about some of the metrics that are used in fertility decline? People talk about total fertility rate. What does all that mean?
Right. This is a very good question. Fertility rate. How do we measure that? Well, there are several ways of doing this. One way is to actually count the birth at the end of the year in a given country. The problem with that is that there are sometimes changes that do occur for reasons that are transitory, and it is therefore not extremely precise. We, in general, prefer referring to what is called the fertility rate. The fertility rate is defined as the number of births in a group of women compared to the number of those women. For example, if you look at women aged 34 in a given country, how many became pregnant in that given year compared to the number of women who are 34? And you can extend that to a whole group of ages, and you can extend that, of course, to all women in that given country.
So how rapidly has this reduction in the fertility rate happened? Because, it was certainly really not long ago, maybe 20 years, 30 years, that we were all of the mind that we were like insects in a bottle, and we were all to outstrip our supplies and in fact die out from overpopulation. So how has this happened?
It's amazing. It's amazing. Claire, you're perfectly right. It took just 3 or 4 decades to go from one extreme to the next. In 1968, Paul Ehrlich published his book called The Population Bomb, which was sold in millions, which predicted an imminent Malthusian world population explosion. He predicted that there would be so many people that actually we were heading toward famine and wars. His calculations were based on the fact that population increased, he said, exponentially, whereas agricultural resources followed a arithmetic growth. It turned out that demographers are not always right. In that particular occasion, they were absolutely wrong from the beginning, because actually fertility had already started to decline, at least in Western Europe, in the early 60s, more than 8 years before the publication of this book. So actually, in a few decades, we went from one extreme, which was the explosion of population, to the situation that we're now facing, in which there is a decline of fertility, a decline that is in some countries so rapid that it actually is reaching the point that the population of these countries, when it is not compensated by immigration, as it is the case in East Asia countries such as Japan, South Korea, and urban areas of China, is the population itself is already declining, not only getting older, but the population is already declined. So we went from one extreme to the other one in very little time, 4 decades at the maximum. It is amazing how rapidly this actually happened. In the meantime, agricultural resources have actually increased much more than what had been predicted.
Mm. I'm sure there are many causes to this, and they will vary between countries and cultures. But could you just give us some insights into how, why this might have happened?
This is an excellent question. Why it happened? Well, there are several reasons, and some of those reasons actually vary from countries to countries. But amongst them, there are two that we would like to dwell on for a second. First of all, there is, in a way, a decline in the desire of people say women, actually couples, to have children. The fault should not be put on women. This is wrong. And many publications talk about women not wanting children, when actually we're talking about couples. It is not an issue of women, it's an issue of men and women. There is a decline in the desire for children. And there are people, and there have been reviews indicating that some people actually express the desire of not having children. And the second major issue is that actually, because of economical issues, cost of housing, the entry of women in the workforce, their ambition at work, their look for promotions actually has led to postpone, for many of them, to postpone their reproductive project. To the point that actually in European countries, for example, and I think it's the same in Australia, the age of first birth has increased by more than 5 years in the past 4 decades. And evidently, this is a mean age, so that now we're talking about 30 some years, 30 point something years for the first birth. But it has a mean value, so some people are actually older. And as we know, unfortunately, it is unfair, but it is a fact, fertility declines in women with age. And as the age at which people start to engage in their project is postponed, there is a risk that some of them will have either less children that they wanted to have, something that we refer to as a baby gap. They wanted to have so many, but they end up having less. And some will simply not be able to reproduce and have children unless they have access to infertility treatment, which is not always available for everybody. So we're dealing with these double primary issues. There are others as well. Those two primary issues as a reason for the decline in infertility. I want to insist on the fact that the fertility gap is really stressing because people end up having less than they want. And we have to counsel them. We have to counsel young people about the decline in fertility rate. And we should try as health professionals to do everything we can to actually avoid the baby gap to occur.
Yeah, fertility. I guess the one country that's an exception to this is sub-Saharan Africa, isn't it? It's still got quite high fertility rates. Can you tell us a little bit about what's happening there?
What is happening in Africa? Actually, there is a decline in fertility rate compared to what they had years as before, but it was about 6 children per woman. And now it has declined to 4, which is still way above the replacement rate of 2.1 approximately. So what is happening is that the population is still increasing tremendously in Africa compared to what is happening in other parts of the world. And this actually will lead to an excess or to a larger number, excess may not be the right word, but to a larger number of young Africans. And some people have actually coined the expression youth quake to describe what is happening, and which may actually have either positive or negative impact. It can lead to revolutions, it can lead to troubles, or it can lead actually to Africa undergoing a new age and a renovation in their ability to be entrepreneurial and initiate new research. So we will not know, but there will be a time by the end of the century where about 50% of the people under the age of 15 will be coming from Africa. The youth quake.
For the rest of the world, excluding Africa, is there any solution or hope, or can I ask you to speculate on where we might go?
But the question is how you see it. I tend to be optimistic, and my research tends to say, yes, there is a possibility. Yes, there is a possibility because actually several issues may happen. First of all, women have entered the world of work, and therefore there are now many suffering the dual penalty of working on one side and on the other side having to deal with the health of the children of the work at home, which is not paid. And this has been for some called the first step of the gender revolution, whereby women have gone into the workplace, and this has led to a decrease in population. Some people, and I tend to believe that, see that that might be a second step in this gender revolution, whereby men will become involved in housework and actually help women in equal ways. And it is possible that that actually will lead to a re-emergence, a re-increase in the desire for children, and a re-increase in birth rates. Actually, some people say that what is called the Z generation, the Zener, actually may already be heading in that direction. Japan has done a lot of effort with the Ikumi project to actually help men to get involved in the work at home. And governments, policies have tried to actually implement measures such as parental leave and so on. Finally, one of the most important steps is probably helping people having access to housing. As people have moved in the cities worldwide, and that includes China actually, the cost of housing in the cities is horrendously expensive, and therefore helping people for providing them house and help for housing is important. There is a phenomenal experience in Brazil. Minha House is called My House by President Lula. And also there is an issue of the value of family. And I want to insist on this, the value of family. Actually, it's interesting to see that 2 countries in the world that have been exposed to some of the most horrible Holocaust actually still have fertility rates that are above replacement rate. This is the case of Israel, which of course we know about the Holocaust that the Jews have been exposed to, but this is also the case of Cambodia. which has been exposed to the Khmer Rouge, and the sense of family has survived. This may be an indirect beneficial effect of the drama. Actually, the birth rate in Cambodia is 2.4, 2.5, compared to 1.2 in Thailand, the country next door, and 1.9 in Vietnam, the country on the other side. So it is possible that reassessing, reevaluating family may actually lead to a population rebound. I tend to be possibly too optimistic, but I believe in that. We will actually probably address those issues in a future podcast. What we have addressed here is essentially the decline in fertility, that in some countries where there is no immigration has reached the level of decrease in population, which is the case of Japan, Korea, urban China. And we have alluded to the fact that there are possibly solutions and possibly hope for a rebound. I tend to believe that. And we will address those issues in future podcasts for Aspire. Thank you, Claire.
Sorry. Thank you, Dom, for giving us such a great insight into the falling fertility and the falling total fertility rate, which apart from sub-Saharan Africa in nearly all countries of the world is below replacement. And of course, with increased life expectancy, the population remains unchanged, but of course, or may in fact get higher, but in fact it's the change of the internal composition of the population. And you've alluded to the fact that there are many causes for this, and they relate to housing, women's place in the workforce, educational status, and in fact a decreased desire for family and for children. But you've also painted some hope for the future and given us some insightful examples, perhaps from Israel and from Cambodia and perhaps some other countries that have actually started to try and address this issue, because it is not sustainable for us economically to have a declining population. So this has been an extremely interesting podcast, and I'm sure you will enjoy it, and we look forward to your feedback. And we also look forward to hearing more about what Aspire might do in this space and how we can enlighten people on declining fertility. So thanks to Professor Dom DeZiglia for a great talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.